I'm sure in doing business for over a decade now, you've run into various challenges that you had to overcome, maybe some fears that you had to face, big lessons that you've learned. What can you share with us one or two of maybe the tips that you would share with a budding internet entrepreneur, somebody who wants to start a business of their own online? What kind of insights would you have to share with them?
So one of the big turning points in our business happened around 2000. Basically the .com crash occurred. The NASDAQ crashed 40 or 50%, whatever it was. And all the advertising clients that we had all of a sudden went bankrupt. So at the time, we had already opened an office, hired employees. I had a business partner who was drawing a salary. So we very quickly needed to find a replacement stream of revenue. And we had a close look at what people were doing on our website. And it turns out that one of the most popular things to do at the time was to print out our tutorials about web design and web development so that you could have it sitting next to your keyboard as you were learning HTML or CSS or what have you. So we came up with this ingenious idea of basically taking our most popular article, taking our most popular tutorial, and publishing it as a print-on-demand book to test this theory as to whether or not people would pay us for the convenience of printing out the content on their behalf. And the reason that we chose a print-on-demand model for this test was we basically wanted to find out whether or not we were right, and if we were wrong, we wanted to fail very, very quickly. So the very first book that we put out didn't even have an index. It was very slapped together, but it was a great experiment, and it went on to sell over 20,000 copies at $35 a pop. So that was one of the early lessons that we learned, how to test ideas really, really cheaply, and also how to adapt your business model to changing circumstances. When I started Webmaster Resources in 1998, I had no idea I'd ever get into the book publishing business, but because of circumstances as well as the demand from our user base, that's what we ended up doing, and that being a very successful model for us for many, many years.
Those are some great tips. Now, I know that 99Designs sprung out of SitePoint, and from my knowledge, that came about kind of as an organic community thing that was happening on SitePoint. So it sounds like you've been very responsive to listening to your community of users, your clients along the way, the users of your site, in order to find what the right move was for your business and how to find the next income streams. So what advice could you give to our listeners about how to, I don't know, how to pay attention to that feedback, or how to even get that feedback from your users, or how to find those trends amongst your users that will help you identify opportunities in your business?
You're absolutely right. 99Designs sprung out of SitePoint back in February of 2008 is when we did the official launch. But for a few years prior to that, it was part of SitePoint and it was known as Design Contests. So it went through multiple phases while we tested out this business idea. Initially, it was just a sub-forum in our community where project holders could request design work and designers could respond by just doing a new forum post with their submission. This quickly became like one of the most popular sections on SitePoint.com. So we decided, this is interesting. Let's see if people are willing to pay $10 to post their design projects to our designer base. So that was our very first test. It took very little time to execute. We tacked on this $10 fee to see if there was money to be made in this, and the growth continued. The volume of projects continued. So the next step that we took was actually building some very basic software around this idea of design contests. In the initial phases, it was just a forum, a V-built-in forum. So it was very basic and didn't really suit the purpose very well. So we took a designer and a programmer, put them in a room for 6 weeks, and we cranked out the first version of design contests. Basically a slightly more polished interface for doing these projects. And we also increased the price to $20. And the volume of projects continued to grow and grow and grow. And we started generating some decent money out of it. So we thought to ourselves, okay, well, what do we do as the next step? SitePoint is known in the design and developer community, but if we want to reach a wider base of small business owners, if we want to have realtors and hedge funds and, big Fortune 1000 companies using our design contest model, they're not going to find it on SitePoint.com. It's going to stay buried under all the other different things that we offer. So at that point, we decided that we really needed a separate brand, and we had enough revenue in order to justify the spin-off and to put some more people full-time on the project. And that's when we decided to launch in February of 2008. And it's been a really steep upward curve since then, primarily because word of mouth has been our strongest referrer of new customers, and having a separate brand that's just dedicated to design contests was incredibly helpful. If we had kept it as part of SitePoint.com, it would be 1/10 of the size that it is today.
So that actually brings up a question I want to ask here in a second about splitting the brand off, but let's go ahead and bring people up to speed who may not be, we have mentioned 99Designs on the show, but just for those who may not be fully familiar with how 99Designs works or what the design contest model is all about, can you give us a brief description of how 99Designs.com works?
So we basically flip the traditional model of outsourcing on its head. Most people are probably familiar with Elance or some of these other sites where you put out a project description and get back bids and proposals in return. With 99Designs, you put out a request for graphic design work, whether it's logos, blog themes, book covers, banner ads, what have you. And rather than getting back quotes and proposals, you actually get back fully completed concept designs from the designers. So you no longer have to worry about trying to sort through portfolios and bids, trying to decide which particular designer will see your vision and conceptualize that work. So we basically eliminated all the risk from hiring a designer. You no longer have to worry about paying someone for work that you're unhappy with, because on average you'll get 100 or more design concepts to choose from.
Yeah, I know that's exactly the reason why I was attracted to it, because it did remove some of that risk. That was one of my biggest frustrations. I've been fortunate to eventually find a designer that I really like and I do a lot of work with, but every once in a while, especially when maybe I don't have the money to pay him, what he deserves for the work that he does, for something smaller, it is nice to be able to go to 99Designs, say, here's what I need, and then to get immediately a whole bunch of ideas from a bunch of different designers of what they might do with my project, rather than worrying about committing to one person, like you say, and then ending up with a product that you don't necessarily like. And it is a risk because you don't know how that working relationship's going to go. You might like a designer's style, but you really don't know how that's going to interpret or play out when it comes to your own specific brand, your own specific project. And so, obviously being able to literally pick from a ton of finished products and go, well, this is the one I like and that's the one I'll pay for because it's the best is very cool on the client side of things. Now, I have to say, and I'd like to get your feedback on this. So personally, as a client, I love it. Now, I have designer friends who, when they find out I use 99Designs, I get a little flack for it. I'm criticized a bit because